Senator Warfield, and I think the CPP has to revisit the issue of the order of speaking in this House. There's something wrong about government having two speakers.
As I explained to Senator Warfield, and you were here for it, it's been looked at CPP.
I do think it has to go back to the CPP.
Okay. Bring it up on Thursday. I explained that already.
Anyhow, we're here to talk about education.
Well, that's what we are here to do, but I did explain it already to Senator Warfield.
I accept that. Cathaoirleach. Minister, I want to congratulate you on your appointment on hitting the ground running in what is the greatest logistical challenge your department has ever faced. I welcome the fact that you're opening schools and the measures you have outlined today. I'm encouraged that there has been significant stakeholder engagement during the planning process. But, Minister, we must be honest with the public. We cannot guarantee that all schools will open, that every school will open. We cannot guarantee that there will not be closures from time to time. According to the World Health Organization liaison person with Ireland on the radio this morning, from time to time places are going to have spikes and those places are going to have to close down. And he estimates that will go on for about 2.5 years. Before I go any further with my comments on your plan, I want to publicly thank the thousands of teachers who have worked so hard during the lockdown period for their continuous delivery of remote learning to their pupils. Their enthusiasm, their ingenuity, their good humour epitomised everything I, as a former president of the Teachers' Union of Ireland, and the public at large are proud of about our education system. I also want to acknowledge the role of parents and the caregivers in providing formal and informal learning opportunities for their children throughout the lockdown, while in many cases working from home themselves. Article 42 of our Constitution, the state acknowledges the primary and natural educator of the child is the family and guarantees to respect the inalienable right and duty of parents to provide for religious, moral, intellectual, physical and social education of their children. Over the last 4 months, families across the country have embraced this duty with energy and bravery as they themselves negotiated the uncharted territory of homeschooling out of necessity rather than choice. Families have borne the financial and emotional cost of this, and I hope your department and educational researchers and academics will continue to engage with parents to mine the valuable knowledge and insight that has been gained from their outstanding handling of this unplanned social experiment. While parents and teachers have done their best, the results have been uneven, and the recently published ESRI report learned that overall students from socio-economic disadvantaged backgrounds and those with special education needs have been deeply affected by the shift to distance learning. School principals fear that the outcome of the lockdown will be a widening of the gap between pre-existing advantage and disadvantage are compounded. They also have concerns about child safety and possible nutritional deficiency due to the absence of school meals programme in DEIS schools. The research tells us that school closures have severely affected peer relationships and has limited the opportunities for social interaction which so many children desperately needed. This, added to the lack of broadband connectivity in some areas and the lack of tablets and PCs, resulted in many students falling seriously behind in their academic and social development. Anecdotally, I've heard of deeply committed students uploading completed assignments using their own credit on their phones. And I would call out today, Minister, and I hope you will join me in this, that the mobile phone providers provide unlimited free data allowance for second-level schools during the period of this crisis. As someone who's been actively campaigning for an increase in the number of career guidance counsellors since taking my seat 6 years ago, I welcome, Minister, your commitment to employ additional staff. But I'm stunned that it took a pandemic to hammer home what the experts and professionals have been telling us for years. I fully agree with the INTO General Secretary John Boyle, who said it's ironic that it has taken a pandemic for us to realise that education cannot work on a shoestring. The news that children will return to school at the end of August has never been more welcomed by students, parents and staff, and I have no doubt at all will work within the guidelines. During the last 5 months, Irish people have already demonstrated an incredible capacity to cooperate and comply. But they will need assurances, detailed signposting and very clear information with as much advance notice as possible. And here I'm mindful to talk to you about a school I'd like you to visit, Kinsale Community School, which is led by Principal Fergal McCarthy. There has been an active committee down there involving students, parents and public health experts, setting up one-way systems and planning how the school will work under COVID. We need to know, for example, if temperatures will be taken at the point of entry. What will happen if a student presents with a temperature and has travelled to school by bus, in a school bus? Does the entire population of that bus have to self-isolate for a period of 14 days? What about a second-level teacher moving from class to class in a situation like that, where one member of a particular class presents with COVID-19? The teacher has been exposed, but may have compromised all of the other classes that they move through. What plans are there in place for that? There are serious logistical issues in terms of time. We're already behind the curve, and the task ahead is mammoth. It's mammoth not only because of the pandemic, but because COVID-19 has brought into sharper relief the deep inequalities, underfunding and staffing challenges that have plagued the education sector for decades. In fact, every single issue that has been shirked by successive governments has now come home to roost. I know you're a teacher yourself, Minister, so you will be aware of many of these things. We're talking about, Minister, employing an additional 1,080 teachers. I suggest that that is the drop in the ocean, given the task ahead. More importantly, how quickly can we get 1,080 of those teachers through Garda vetting clearance? How are we going to utilise those teachers? One of my colleagues has already mentioned the fact that teachers move from school to school in some cases. In such a situation, are we running the risk of bringing an infection from one area into another area? I am completely and utterly behind anything you're trying to do in order to keep schools open. But I do not believe 1,080 teachers, even if you could find them, and I doubt very much you're going to find them when you go to the marketplace, because of the gross inequality that has existed in the pay system in this country. We've been arguing about it since 2012, when I was president of the TUI, and nobody has taken notice. We have lost the best and brightest of our educators to places like Dubai, to London, to Birmingham, to Manchester. I heard this morning that we're expecting the ones in the UK to come home. They won't come home. They won't come home because they see what has happened to the nurses that came home. Many of them came from all parts of the world, only to find that they have never been employed. So from that point of view, I do not see how you're going to find 1,080 teachers. The underfunding of capital projects, despite massive growth in our economy over the years, has left us with schools, infrastructures which may not be able to accommodate the type of social distancing envisaged in your plan. From my calculations, if we're going with 2 metres distancing, it'll be 13 students to a 49 square metre classroom. If we go for 126. Minister, I'll finish off by saying I am 100% behind opening the schools, but I am 100% behind the teachers that are going to have to deliver for you. I'm 100% behind the principals who are going to have to manage this, and I would today ask you to make contact with Principal McCarthy in Kinsale. Go and have a look at the plans he has in place. They are outstanding, so I'll ask you to do that. Thank you very much, Claire.
Thank you, Senator.